The off-season is all but over for the Philadelphia Eagles, and there is no questioning that they upgraded their secondary on a huge level. From a total revamp at safety to the addition of a lockdown corner in the way of Darius Slay, this looks to be a very different defense to the one that was fielded 1 year ago. But there's still a question over who Darius Slay's running mate will be on the other side of the field. Some assume it will be Sidney Jones, others are rooting for Avonte Maddox, but there's one man who may go down as the team's most underrated off-season addition. A man looking to follow in the footsteps of another former Chargers cornerback who also joined the Eagles on a prove-it deal back in 2017 by the name of Patrick Robinson. The man I'm talking about is Trevor Williams, and I firmly believe he has got a run-in to the CB2 position, and today I'm going to explain why. This is another episode of Eagles Film Room. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a huge thank you for taking time out of your day to watch this video, and if you're not yet subscribed but do enjoy the content, hitting that big red button means the absolute world to us. We are so close to 20,000 subscribers, and we want to do as much for this community as we can, and we would love for you to be a part of it, so that when all of this pandemic passes and we can start meetups and giveaways and that sort of thing, that you'll be included in that fun. And as always, if you could just take a couple minutes of your day to head over to phillysportsnetwork.com and read the content from myself and all of our writers, that would be amazing. We want to be your new home for Philadelphia sports coverage, somewhere without the clickbait, without the bias, without the annoyance that you find elsewhere. And if you take a shot on us, then we'll absolutely give you everything that we can. So who is Trevor Williams? Well, he's a 26-year-old cornerback who stands at 5'11", 191 pounds, very notably similar to the build of Darius Slay, who stands at 6 foot, 190 pounds, and arguably, at times, he's been in that same echelon of productivity. Now, in 2019, Williams ended up on IR after suffering a quad strain as early as week 2. He would then later bounce to Arizona, playing a solely special teams role, and then was cut from there as well, so maybe the injury lingered. But that's kind of been the story so far. In 2018, he hit IR with a knee sprain suffered in week 10 after injuries nagged him the entire way through the season, which led to a dramatic downfall compared to that 2017 season that we're going to talk about today. Before that injury bug savagely sunk its teeth into his career, in 2017, he ranked as PFF's 10th best corner and stunningly allowed a passer rating of just 10.4 on throws that came 2.6 plus seconds after the snap. On the surface, his 13 passes defense are enough to raise eyebrows, but even his 2018 season, which was considered to be a big drop-off compared to 2017, was still head and shoulders above Ronald Darby. I mean, take a look at these stats. He had a burn rate of 0%. He wasn't burned once, and yeah, he allowed a 73.1% catch rate. But you're telling me this guy at 26 years old has signed a basically minimum deal, has produced better than Ronald Darby? He was a starting corner for most of last year. That's impressive. I'm intrigued. So what is it the Eagles like about Trevor Williams? Where does he fit in this system? And does he realistically have a shot at regaining a CB2 spot? Because this is very much a signing that at the time, a lot of people were confused about. Howie Roseman just one day before said that he'd reconsider players with an injury history and whether or not he'd re-sign them. He then goes and signs Trevor Williams, who is now arguably the lowest floor, highest ceiling player on the whole team, and we're gonna find out why. As a rookie, he was very, very raw. I mean, take for instance the fact he was targeted 29 times and gave up 18 catches, 12 of which were first downs. 2017, his sophomore campaign, was very different. There was a big jump in the way of his coverage ability, and as a former receiver, he already had the athletic attributes. It was just connecting the dots, and just look at how magnetic this coverage is. Williams is someone that will make his living down at the line of scrimmage in man coverage. There's a fine example of that right here. He opens his hips really early, big strides to turn and run with the receiver, and even though he loses out that frame battle on top trumps, he's not quite as big and bulky as the man he's covering. Look at how he's able to stay connected into the hip pocket of the wide receiver. He almost gets boxed out for a second, but he sees that coming, pushes his hand through the chest and punches that ball loose. Now, who better to evaluate a cornerback against than Odell Beckham Jr.? This play again from 2017 when he was still on the Giants. Beckham's gonna sell a vertical route here. He's gonna do a brilliant, violent head shake to try and throw Williams off guard, and it doesn't work. Now, the ball is overthrown, but I want you to see how Williams handles this. He turns and goes and leans into the cut. He doesn't lean away from it or kind of stop and hesitate. He leans into the body movement of Beckham, and although he loses a step, he's there just to stop a home run if that ball were to land. Now, that wasn't the same all afternoon. Beckham gets open on a little slug over here. The difference, however, is that there's safety help, something the Eagles cornerbacks, Rizzle Douglas, really didn't have much of last year. We saw this plenty of occasions in terms of the Eagles secondary, where you're shading outside, you're expecting help over the middle, the safety would bite down. Boston doesn't allow that to happen, and that gives a lifeline to your CB2, something that's needed here. But what about Devontae Parker, another violent receiver? He does another great job, again, of staying in the hip pocket. He squeezes Parker, he wants his hand underneath, and he's leaning into the route, turning, looking for the ball, and using that wide receiver instinct to almost make a play. He got in front of Parker on a 9 route. That's really impressive. And down in the red zone, Parker didn't have much success either. He uses those same instincts of using his head on a swivel to look for the ball. He's peeking into the backfield so early into that route that he's able to position himself very well. There's another example of that against the Bills. Look at his eyes here. He's going to get his hands onto the chest of the wideout, but his eyes are in the backfield. He wants to adjust for that ball, and it's something the Eagles cornerbacks often struggle with. They get lost on the wide receiver. Williams is the opposite of that, and there's a play that highlights this against the Eagles in that big game against the Chargers. Now, this kind of look of a defense will scare many Eagles fans. I promise this one goes a bit better. Williams is covering Torrey Smith here, who is going to run a corner route. Now, the man next to Trevor Williams is going to bite down on that kind of curl flat responsibility to stop anyone peeking out, leaving inside leverage for Smith. So how does he play this? He has to outside shade a speedster. Now, there comes the movement for the running back. That should generate leverage, not for Williams, who sees it coming, has the instinct to get his hand into the flight path of the ball. Here's another example against Devontae Parker inside the red zone at the top of your screen. It was never open to begin with. He's just very instinctive at feeling his way down routes. Now, Williams was asked to do a lot of bail and trail coverage in the Chargers system at that time, and with a 4.44 40-yard dash, it's not hard to see why. We know the Eagles like to covet speed in their secondary this time around, and Williams also fits that mold. He's able to stick with Torrey Smith deep down the field there, completely wiping him out of the play. And if you don't believe me, here's where Carson Wentz was looking during that throw. It's just that ability to keep his eyes in the backfield, keep the receiver behind him, and anticipate where he's going to go, relying on that athleticism. Now, Wentz there takes a check down. It's not on in the end. It's not just raw athleticism either. He's got a really nice burst to his game. He's a very agile cornerback, and this is the only concern where you're looking at the injury history, wondering if that quadriceps injury will linger and he'll lose some of that. But this play is magnificent. He's in the run fit, but he's playing curl and flat responsibilities here, so he's going to peel out and sit between the curling receiver and the running back in the flat. Now, this pass is going to go to the running back, and Williams has to rotate his entire body, come down, and make that tackle. His eyes are in the backfield. He anticipates it well. Look how quickly he can just stop on a dime, rotate his hips, and generate power to burst downfield and make a tackle. In zone looks, he's actually really efficient. The Chargers hold a 10-3 lead. There's 15 seconds to go in the second quarter. He's playing a similar responsibility, and the quarterback is going to try and find the receiver in the turkey hole. Now, Cutler's eyes immediately come up off the running back, and Williams sees this. So he starts tracing back to the sideline, leaps forward towards the receiver. The safety comes down as well. It's an incompletion. It's a scary one, but the positioning was good to take away the check down that would have got another first down in a vital situation. That positioning can be seen here. He ends up picking off a pass. Yes, it was an errant one, but it's the awareness to find the ball. Like, he's not quite a ball hawk. He's not quite a dinner cornerback. He's someone that fits for, I'd say, a lunch cornerback. A bit of breakfast, a bit of dinner. He's got the instincts to play around the catch point, hence his 13 passes defense, but he's got the aggression and the speed to hold his own at the line of scrimmage. As you can see here, again, just carrying a receiver all the way down the field, staying in the hip pocket and taking him out of the play. In fact, he did that for most of the game against the Buffalo Bills here. You can see it again. And I think because he's got that background as a route runner, it does bleed over into his coverage, and he can pull off things like this. on curl routes, he is almost magnetic. Like, the difference there between separation on OBJ at the bottom and Sterling Shepard at the top is wild. And it's not a one-off thing. There's another example of it here. He's all over it. He even turned his body the wrong way and still comes up breaking up that pass. It's that twitch, it's that hip fluidity, his ability to separate his lower body from his upper body that allow him to run with these faster receivers. And that's huge for a CB2 that is often tasked with the speedy guys. Now, is he going to be good in the run game as a defender? Well, when he can do things like this against the Giants, leap off a block and somehow stuff the running back behind the line of scrimmage, it gets me excited. There were a couple times he missed tackles or didn't position himself too correctly, but overall, he's a fairly stout tackler, and those are reflected by his basic box score stats as well. He goes for the legs, goes for the lower body, and doesn't really put too many feet wrong. He's able to be very secure in his tackling ability, which, as we know by the Eagles secondary last year, they really need some help on that front. Like, look at this, for instance, again, playing curl and flat, look at his eyes, clicks, closes, and just brings down the running back short of the first down. Now, do I think Trevor Williams is your immediate CB2? I don't think so. I think he is a perfect complement to Darius Slay, but he's going to have to earn that, and the biggest question mark is how those injuries have impacted him. The Cardinals took a shot last year. He clearly wasn't healthy enough to do anything more than a few special team snaps. Now he's got a full off season, an extended one with the events that have happened throughout the world, to try and get himself back to a level where his play isn't going to be impacted, to where the confidence is restored, that if he has lost any of that agility, that's no longer a problem. If he can do that, I absolutely believe that Trevor Williams is this year's Patrick Robinson. Again, following in the footsteps of a cornerback that played for the Chargers, had a down year, came to the Eagles on a prove-it deal, and resurged his career. I think Williams can fill that mold. He's still young enough to really find that future in the NFL as well. Whether it's with the Eagles or not, I don't know, but if he can have a stellar offseason, if he can really appoint himself as the king of the guard, then there is no questioning that he can be Darius Slay's running mate, because he's got the speed, the aggression, the physicality, and the instincts to hang with many of the second wide receivers in this league. And while some of the shorter guys like Maddox or Jones may be better fitted to the slot, I feel like that Trevor Williams is a devout outside corner, and that may just give him a bit of a run-in. But what do you think, guys? Do you want to see Trevor Williams start on the outside? Let me know down in the comments. Thank you so much for all of your support throughout these last couple of months. I know it's been stressful, and hopefully our coverage has just given you a little bit of positivity in a world full of the opposite right now. So thank you again for taking the time to watch our content. From myself, Liam Jenkins, I'll see you next time.